When a man loses a Sigma woman, he doesn't just miss a partner, he misses a standard of existence. He realizes, usually too late, that the things he found challenging about her, her independence, her silence, her high standards, were actually the very things that provided the most profound stability in his life. The loving point of a Sigma woman isn't soft, clingy, or loud. It is a quiet, steady flame that burns with an intensity most men aren't prepared for. Because she doesn't perform her love for an audience, men often mistake her composure for a lack of passion. But once the relationship ends, the vacuum she leaves behind is deafening. Today, we're exploring the 9 deep, loving points that men miss the most when a Sigma woman finally walks away. The tragedy for many men is that they spend the relationship trying to soften the Sigma woman, wanting her to be more typical or more dependent. They view her strength as a barrier to love. It is only in the aftermath that they realize her strength was her love. They miss the depth because they were too busy looking for the surface. 1. Her radical honesty. The first loving point a man truly begins to grieve once a Sigma woman has left his life is the loss of her radical honesty. In a world saturated with social pleasantries, half-truths, and polite deceptions, the Sigma woman stands as a pillar of uncompromising reality. She does not possess the performative energy required for the elaborate mind games, tests, or manipulative riddles that often characterize modern dating. To her, honesty is not just a moral choice, it is a matter of efficiency and self-respect. If she loves you, she believes you deserve the truth, even when that truth is sharp, uncomfortable, or bruising to your ego. During the relationship, a man might find this bluntness difficult to handle. He may perceive it as coldness or a lack of tact, often wishing she would just sugarcoat her feedback or participate in the small white lies that many couples use to maintain a fragile peace. However, once the relationship ends and he re-enters the world of superficial connections, he realizes that her honesty was the highest form of respect she could have possibly offered him. He misses the absolute clarity that came with her presence. With a Sigma woman, there is no reading between the lines. You never have to wonder if she is secretly angry, if she is hinting at a problem she won't name, or if her "I'm fine" actually means she is planning a month of passive aggression. When she says she is fine, she is fine. When she says she is proud of you, it is because you have actually achieved something noteworthy, not because she is trying to manage your mood. This radical transparency provides a level of psychological security that is almost impossible to find elsewhere. A man realizes, in her absence, that he never had to second-guess his standing in her life. Her yes was a firm commitment, and her no was an unshakable boundary. This consistency allowed him to rest in the relationship, knowing that he was dealing with a woman whose internal reality perfectly matched her external words. Furthermore, he misses the way her honesty acted as a catalyst for his own integrity. Because she refused to lie to protect his ego, she forced him to confront his own flaws and inconsistencies. She didn't enable his bad habits or nod along to his excuses. While this felt like a challenge at the time, he now realizes that it was the only thing keeping him honest with himself. He misses the loving point of a partner who cared enough about his character to tell him when he was wrong. He looks back and sees that her bluntness wasn't an attack, but an invitation to be better. In her absence, he finds himself surrounded by people who will tell him exactly what he wants to hear, and he realizes how dangerous that comfort truly is. He misses the woman who was brave enough to be real with him, realizing too late that her radical honesty was the most profound act of love he had ever received. He understands now that a woman who lies to protect your feelings is a woman who doesn't believe you are strong enough to handle the truth. But the Sigma woman knew you were capable of more. 2. The quality of her presence. The second loving point a man misses deeply is the rare and profound quality of a Sigma woman's presence. In an era defined by chronic distraction, where most people are physically in one place but mentally tethered to their phones, their social media feeds, or their anxieties about the future, the Sigma woman offers something increasingly scarce: total, undivided attention. She is not a woman who seeks to fill the silence with mindless chatter or performative displays of affection to prove she is engaged. Instead, her presence is characterized by a focused, intentional stillness. When she is with you, she is actually with you. She listens not just to the words you speak, but to the pauses between them. Men often don't realize how much they've come to rely on this grounded energy until it is gone. In her absence, they find themselves in conversations that feel hollow and fragmented, realizing too late that the Sigma woman provided a mental anchor that allowed them to feel truly seen and heard without the need for constant verbal validation. This quality of presence is deeply tied to her lack of neediness. Because a Sigma woman is comfortable in her own solitude, her choice to spend time with a partner is a high-level compliment. She isn't there because she's afraid of being alone or because she needs a distraction. She is there because she values the connection. This makes her presence feel heavy in the best possible way. It has substance and weight. A man misses the way she could sit in a room with him for hours, both of them working on separate projects, yet still feel a stronger connection than he does with someone who is actively trying to entertain him. He misses the loving point of a woman who didn't require him to be the director of her time. She brought her own light into the room, and her presence acted as a calm, stabilizing force that settled his own restless energy. He realizes that her quietude wasn't a lack of interest, but a high-frequency engagement that didn't need to be loud to be felt. Furthermore, he misses the depth of the intellectual and emotional intimacy that her presence fostered. A Sigma woman doesn't settle for surface-level interactions. Her presence demands a certain level of depth from everyone around her. She has a way of looking at a man, not with the starry-eyed gaze of a fan, but with the discerning, appreciative eye of an equal, that makes him feel significant in a way that goes beyond his ego. He misses the vibe of her companionship, realizing that it provided a sanctuary from the superficiality of the outside world. Without her, the silence of a room feels empty rather than peaceful. He realizes that he took for granted the fact that he never had to perform to keep her attention. He just had to be present. By being a woman who was fully there, she taught him the value of the moment. Now that she is gone, he finds that he is searching for that same level of gravity in others, only to find that most people are too busy being watched by the world to ever truly be with him. 3. Her low-maintenance loyalty. The third loving point that haunts a man long after a Sigma woman has departed is the profound, quiet security of her low-maintenance loyalty. In the modern dating landscape, loyalty is often treated as a fragile commodity that requires constant maintenance through expensive gifts, repetitive verbal reassurances, and a never-ending cycle of public displays of affection. Many men are accustomed to relationships that feel like a full-time job, where the partner's commitment is directly proportional to how much attention and proof of love is provided on a daily basis. However, the loyalty of a Sigma woman is built on an entirely different foundation. Her commitment is not a reaction to external stimuli. It is an extension of her own internal integrity. Once she has chosen a man and decided that he is worthy of her time, her loyalty becomes an unshakable constant. She doesn't need to be chased to stay, and she doesn't need to be monitored. Men miss the immense psychological relief of being with a woman they never had to worry about, realizing only in her absence that they had traded a second job for a sanctuary of absolute trust. This loyalty is low maintenance because it is rooted in her self-sufficiency. A Sigma woman does not look to her partner to provide her with a moral compass or a sense of identity, which means she doesn't leak her loyalty when the relationship hits a rough patch. While other women might seek outside validation or monkey branch to a new connection when they feel neglected, the Sigma woman remains centered in her own code of conduct. If she is in, she is all in, not because she is dependent on the man, but because she respects herself too much to be inconsistent. A man misses the loving point of a partner who didn't require him to be perfect to stay loyal. He misses the freedom of not having to walk on eggshells, wondering if a single mistake would send her looking for someone else's attention. He realizes too late that her loyalty was the most stable part of his life, a silent force that allowed him to focus on his own growth and ambitions without the exhausting distraction of relationship insecurity. Furthermore, he misses the lack of performative loyalty that characterizes so many other connections. The Sigma woman didn't need to post about him on social media or demand that he post about her to feel secure in their bond. Her loyalty existed in the real world, in the quiet moments of support, and the steadfast refusal to let outside noise dictate the terms of her heart. To an insecure man, this might have felt distant during the relationship, but in the aftermath, he realizes it was the highest form of devotion. He misses the quiet confidence of knowing that while she was off in her own world, she was still his. He realizes that her independence wasn't a threat to their loyalty. It was the very thing that made her loyalty so valuable. It wasn't born of need. It was born of a conscious, daily choice. Now that she is gone, he finds himself in a world of high-maintenance connections that require constant feeding, and he longs for the woman whose loyalty was as steady and effortless as the ground beneath his feet. But let's be real for a second. Have you ever felt like your low-maintenance nature was mistaken for a lack of interest? Or if you're a man watching this, have you realized too late that the woman who didn't nag you was actually the one who trusted you the most? Drop a lovell in the comments if you've experienced this. It helps our community grow, and if you're finding value in this deep dive, make sure to hit that subscribe button before we move on to how she actually makes a man better. Now, speaking of growth, this leads us directly into how a Sigma woman looks at a man's future. 4. The way she challenged his potential. The fourth, loving point a man misses, and perhaps the one that leaves the most permanent mark on his life, is the way a Sigma woman challenged his potential. In many relationships, love is equated with comfort and unconditional coddling. Most partners are willing to overlook a man's laziness, his excuses, or his lack of ambition in the name of supporting him or keeping the peace. They provide a soft place for him to land, which often inadvertently becomes a place where his growth stunts. But a Sigma woman's love is not a soft cushion, it is a sharpening stone. Because she holds herself to an incredibly high standard of discipline and self-mastery, she naturally expects the same from the man she chooses to walk beside. She doesn't have the energy to baby a man or to be a cheerleader for his mediocrity. During the relationship, a man might find this loving point incredibly demanding. He may have felt pressured by her silent expectations or frustrated when she refused to accept his good enough efforts. However, after she is gone, he realizes that he was never more focused, more productive, or more respected by the world than when he was under her discerning gaze. He misses the way her presence acted as a silent accountability partner. A Sigma woman doesn't need to nag or lecture a man to get him to improve. She simply lives at a frequency that makes him want to level up to meet her. He misses the way she could look at a half-finished project or a weak excuse and ask the one question that forced him to confront his own potential. In her absence, he finds that he has lost the mirror that showed him his best self. He realizes that her high standards weren't about being difficult or controlling. They were a profound act of belief in his capability. She saw the version of him that he hadn't yet become, and she refused to let him settle for anything less. He misses the loving point of being truly challenged. Without her, he finds himself slipping back into old, comfortable habits, realizing too late that her high expectations were the fuel that drove his greatest successes. Furthermore, he misses the intellectual and personal expansion that came from being with a woman who was always evolving. A Sigma woman is a lifelong student of herself and the world, and her thirst for growth is contagious. He misses the way she introduced him to new perspectives, challenged his biases, and forced him to defend his ideas with logic rather than emotion. She didn't want a follower. She wanted a peer who could hold his own in the arena of life. Now that she is gone, he feels the stagnation of his own spirit. He realizes that while he was with her, he was on an upward trajectory, fueled by the desire to be a man worthy of such a sovereign woman. He misses the grit and the drive she inspired in him, realizing that her tough love was actually the most selfless gift she could have given. He understands now that a woman who lets you stay small doesn't truly love you, but the Sigma woman loved him enough to demand that he become great. 5. Her quiet support in a crisis. The fifth loving point a man misses with an almost physical ache is the unshakable, quiet support a Sigma woman provides during a crisis. In the chaotic theater of life, most people react to emergencies with high emotionality, panic, frantic questioning, or paralyzing fear. Many partners, while well-meaning, often become an additional problem to manage during a disaster because they require emotional caretaking just when the pressure is highest. But the Sigma woman is the ultimate calm in the storm. When the world falls apart, whether it's a career failure, a family tragedy, or a financial setback, she doesn't collapse. Instead, she enters a state of hyper-focused, tactical clarity. She doesn't waste energy on why or how could this happen while the house is still burning. She simply picks up the fire extinguisher. Men miss the immense psychological safety of having a partner who is a natural-born strategist. They realize too late that while they were out playing the role of the hero for the world, she was the one quietly ensuring the foundation of their life didn't crumble under the weight of the emergency. He misses the way she could solve a massive problem with 3 words of logic, while everyone else was still venting their frustrations. Her support isn't loud or performative. It doesn't come with a "look what I did for you" price tag. It is the kind of support that happens in the background, the late-night research, the organizing of logistics, the steady hand on the wheel when he felt like he was losing his grip. He misses the loving point of her competence. In her absence, he realizes how much he leaned on her quiet strength to maintain his own composure. He finds himself facing new challenges and instinctively looking to his side for her calm, discerning gaze, only to remember that he is now alone in the noise. He realizes that her coolness, which he might have once mistaken for a lack of empathy, was actually her greatest gift, the ability to keep her head when everyone else was losing theirs. Furthermore, he misses the fact that her support was never transactional. A Sigma woman doesn't support you because she wants to be thanked or because she wants you to feel indebted to her. She does it because it is who she is. She has a high sense of duty to those she has chosen to let into her inner circle. He misses the security of knowing that no matter how bad things got, he had a one-woman army in his corner who wouldn't flinch. He realizes that in the modern world, most people are fair-weather partners who disappear or become a burden when the fun stops. But the Sigma woman is at her most potent when the stakes are at their highest. He misses the way she made the impossible feel manageable through the sheer force of her unshakable peace. Now that she is gone, he feels the full weight of the world's chaos, realizing that he didn't just lose a lover. He lost his most reliable ally, his chief strategist, and the only person who could look a catastrophe in the eye and not blink. 6. The rarity of her vulnerability. The sixth, loving point that a man misses with profound intensity is the rare, carefully guarded vulnerability of a Sigma woman. Because she is a person who thrives on self-sufficiency and emotional independence, her moments of softness are not given away freely. They are earned over time and through demonstrated reliability. In many relationships, vulnerability is used as a tool for bonding or even as a way to seek attention, resulting in an emotional openness that can sometimes feel constant or overwhelming. But for a Sigma woman, letting down her guard is a monumental act of trust. It is the inner sanctum of her soul that she only opens for the man who has proven he can handle her depth without trying to fix her or control her. During the relationship, a man might have taken these moments for granted, not realizing that he was one of the very few human beings on earth allowed to see her off guard. Once she is gone, he realizes that he has lost access to a secret world, a soft, glowing core that existed behind her formidable exterior. He misses the weight and the value of those rare moments when she finally leaned on him. Because she is so used to being the pillar of strength for herself and others, her vulnerability has a specific, high-frequency quality. It isn't a falling apart, it is a letting in. He misses the quiet evenings when she would finally stop analyzing the world and simply be still in his presence, or the rare occasions when she shared her deepest fears or her most private dreams. These moments felt like a sacred prize because he knew how high her walls were and how much she valued her own privacy. In her absence, he realizes that other people's vulnerability feels cheap or performative by comparison. He misses the loving point of being the only person who truly knew her. He understands now that her vulnerability wasn't a sign of weakness, but the ultimate gift of her love, a conscious decision to be unsafe with him because she believed in the connection. Furthermore, he misses the way her vulnerability made him feel like a better man. When a woman who doesn't need anyone finally allows herself to need you, it confers a level of significance that no amount of flattery can replicate. It made him feel like he had earned his place in her life. Now that she's gone, he realizes that the softness he found in her was more meaningful than the constant emotional availability of others. He misses the intimacy of their shared silence and the private language they developed in those rare moments of openness. He feels the coldness of a world where everyone is open, but no one is deep. He realizes that by losing her, he didn't just lose a partner. He lost the privilege of being the custodian of her most private self. He understands too late that her vulnerability was a limited edition experience, a hidden treasure that he failed to protect. He's left with the haunting memory of the woman who was a fortress to the world, but a sanctuary for him, and the realization that he may never be trusted with that kind of depth again. I want to hear from the Sigma women in the audience. How long does it typically take for you to show that soft, vulnerable side to a partner? And to the men, did you realize the weight of that trust when it was given to you? Let us know your thoughts below. Your stories are what make this channel a sanctuary for deep thinkers. If you haven't liked the video yet, now is the time, because these final few points are where the true silence of her love resides. 7. Her lack of drama. The seventh, loving point a man misses, often with a sense of immense relief that he only appreciates once it's gone, is the Sigma woman's fundamental lack of drama. In the modern dating world, drama is often confused with passion. Many men are accustomed to relationships that operate on a cycle of high-intensity emotional theater, the tests of affection, the passive-aggressive silences, the public arguments, and the exhausting need for constant reassurance. They are used to walking on eggshells, wondering if a single misunderstood text or a minor oversight will trigger a weekend-long emotional crisis. But the Sigma woman does not possess an appetite for chaos. She views drama as an inefficient drain on her precious energy and a violation of her internal peace. When a man moves on from a Sigma woman to someone more typical, he is suddenly hit with the exhausting reality of emotional labor. He misses the loving point of her logical, grounded approach to conflict, a quality he might have once found cold, but now realizes was the very thing that kept his life stable. He misses the simplicity of her communication style. A Sigma woman doesn't expect you to be a mind reader. If something is bothering her, she processes it internally first to determine if it's even worth a conversation. If it is, she addresses it with the goal of resolution, not with the goal of winning an argument or gaining emotional leverage. He misses the safe feeling of knowing that a disagreement won't turn into a character assassination or a week of the silent treatment. He realizes in her absence that her emotional maturity was a luxury. He misses the quiet nights that were actually quiet, not filled with a heavy, unspoken tension. He understands now that her refusal to engage in petty squabbles wasn't a lack of caring. It was a sign of her respect for the relationship. She loved him enough to protect the connection from the unnecessary friction that usually wears love down to nothing. Furthermore, he misses the way her lack of drama allowed him to focus on his own life and ambitions. Because she wasn't a full-time job to manage, he had the mental and emotional space to be productive, to pursue his hobbies, and to maintain his friendships without feeling like he was neglecting her. He realizes that the Sigma woman was his greatest teammate because she didn't require him to be her source of entertainment or her emotional punching bag. She was self-soothing and self-governed. Now that he is back in the drama loop with others, he feels a profound sense of burnout. He realizes that the excitement of a reactive partner is nothing compared to the deep, sustainable power of a woman who is at peace with herself. He misses the loving point of her stability, realizing too late that her lack of drama wasn't a lack of fire. It was the sign of a woman whose fire was controlled, intentional, and used to build a life rather than burn one down. He is left with the haunting realization that he traded a sanctuary for a circus, and he would give anything for the quiet, unshakable dignity of the woman who didn't need to scream to be heard. 8. The way she respected his space. The eighth loving point a man misses with profound clarity is the way a Sigma woman respected his space. In a world where many define intimacy as constant proximity and emotional merging, the Sigma woman's approach to love is radically different. She loves with an open hand. Because she's a person who deeply values her own solitude and requires significant time to recharge in isolation, she possesses a natural, intuitive understanding of a man's need for the same. She never viewed his desire for man time, his focus on a solo hobby, or his need to simply sit in silence as a personal rejection or a sign of fading affection. She didn't smother him with check-in texts. She didn't demand to know his location at every hour, and she never made him feel guilty for having a life that existed outside of her. During the relationship, a man might have taken this freedom for granted, perhaps even mistaking her lack of clinginess for a lack of interest. However, once he moves on to a more dependent partner, he realizes that her respect for his space was actually the highest form of trust a woman can offer. He misses the mental and emotional breathing room that only a Sigma woman provides. Most men are used to the suffocation of traditional relationships, where every moment spent alone is viewed as a withdrawal from the partnership's bank account. They are used to the subtle guilt trips and the passive-aggressive comments that come when they choose their career or their friends over a night on the couch. But the Sigma woman was different. She was his greatest advocate for his independence. He misses the loving point of a woman who was so secure in herself that his absence didn't threaten her. He realizes, in her absence, that her respect for his space allowed him to be a better version of himself. He was more focused at work, more present with his friends, and more energized when he finally did return to her, because he never felt like he was being hunted or managed. He understands now that her independence wasn't a barrier to their connection. It was the very thing that made their time together so high quality and intentional. Furthermore, he misses the profound sense of autonomy that she allowed him to maintain. A Sigma woman doesn't try to colonize a man's life. She doesn't rearrange his social circle, try to change his habits, or demand that he give up his private world to prove his love. He misses the security of a partner who trusted him enough to let him go. Now that he is with others who view his space as a threat to their security, he feels a sense of claustrophobia that he never felt with the Sigma woman. He realizes that her hands-off approach was a sign of her immense respect for his masculine sovereignty. She didn't want a lapdog who was always at her beck and call. She wanted a lion who chose to come home to her. He misses the quiet, unspoken agreement that they were two whole individuals walking the same path, rather than two halves desperately trying to fuse into one. He realizes too late that by respecting his space, she was actually protecting the longevity of their love, ensuring that they never burned out from the friction of being too close. He is left with the realization that he lost the only woman who loved him enough to let him be free, and that freedom is the one thing he can never find again. 9. Her unshakable peace. The ninth and final loving point a man misses is the profound, unshakable peace that a Sigma woman brings into a shared life. In a modern world defined by noise, performative outrage, and constant emotional turbulence, the Sigma woman exists as a rare island of tranquility. She does not derive her sense of self from the external world's chaos, which means she does not bring that chaos back into the home. For her, the domestic sphere is a sanctuary, a place where the soul should be allowed to rest and recalibrate. During the relationship, a man might have grown so accustomed to this vibe that he began to take it for granted, perhaps even finding her consistent calmness to be too quiet. However, once she is gone, he is hit with the jarring realization that he hasn't just lost a partner, he has lost his anchor. He finds himself in a world of high-conflict interactions and emotionally volatile connections, and he begins to ache for the steady, grounded energy that only she could provide. He realizes too late that her peace was the invisible foundation upon which all his other successes were built. He misses the loving point of a partner who didn't require him to be her emotional regulator. Most men are used to being the shock absorbers for their partner's stress, constantly working to soothe their anxieties or manage their moods. But the Sigma woman is self-governed. She handles her internal weather with a quiet discipline that relieves the man of the burden of fixing her. This allowed him to exist in a state of psychological freedom that he only recognizes now that it has been replaced by demand. He misses the silent evenings that felt restorative rather than empty. He misses the way she could sit in a room and emit a frequency of such profound self-possession that his own heart rate would slow just by being near her. He understands now that her peace wasn't a passive state. It was an active, daily choice to maintain her center, regardless of the world's storms. The climax of a man's regret arrives when he realizes that he didn't just lose a woman. He lost a standard of living. He enters new relationships and finds that while others may be more expressive or needy, they are ultimately hollow compared to the Sigma woman. He realizes that her silence was actually a rich internal life that he failed to fully appreciate, and her distance was actually the respect for his own sovereignty. The unsafety he feels in the aftermath is the realization that he has lost the only woman who didn't want to own him, but simply wanted to walk beside him. He experiences the vacuum of depth, a hollow feeling in his chest that comes from knowing he traded a rare, high-frequency soul for a series of superficial distractions. He sees that the Sigma woman was the only person who truly saw him, challenged him, and gave him the peace he needed to become a man of substance. In conclusion, the loving points of a Sigma woman are not found in her words, but in her essence. She loves through her honesty, her presence, her loyalty, and her peace. She is a woman who offers a man the rarest gift of all, the opportunity to be loved by someone who doesn't need him, but chooses him every single day. If you are a Sigma woman, never apologize for your quiet way of loving. It is a deep, ancient, and powerful form of devotion that only a man of true maturity will ever deserve. Your love is a sanctuary, and those who are lucky enough to enter it will be forever changed by the experience, whether they stay or whether they are left to miss you for the rest of their lives. To the men watching, have you realized too late that the woman you thought was too independent was actually the only one who truly had your back? To the women, which of these loving points do you find people struggle to understand the most? Let's talk about it in the comments. If this video resonated with you, give it a like and subscribe to our community. Don't let the noise of the world drown out the beauty of a quiet, powerful love. Watch our next video to learn how to cultivate your own internal peace, and remember, your depth is your greatest asset.